Welcome to video 4 in the presentation tips series. We've already covered in the first 3 videos the general approach and mindset to practice in order to set yourself up for a successful presentation. Knowing your audience along with their interests and priorities, as well as setting expectations and telling the right story are all the right things to do. But as you can imagine, to do these things right, you need to do some pre-work and preparation. Because the way you can prepare for a presentation can be vastly different depending on the topic of your presentation, rather than getting to presentation-specific details, I'm going to be sharing 2 general pre-work and preparations that apply to most presentations. And I'll position these as 2 traps that we unknowingly end up setting up for ourselves. The first trap happens when we don't open our mind and allow for our perfect presentation or pitch to be picked at. You can either do this by not openly collaborating and gathering information from your peers and stakeholders, or by doing all the right pre-work of collaboration, information gathering, fact-checking, review and input from your peer and stakeholders, but being so completely sold on your own idea that you dismiss any information that goes against your position and you hang on tight to any information that confirms your position. This is also known as confirmation bias. The ability to openly take in feedback and consider perspectives that you haven't really considered before will allow you to do 2 things. First, it will allow you to continually improve your presentation and your pitch, making sure your hypothesis is valid and have all the information so that you go into this with your eyes open. And secondly, it will allow you to gather more and more answers for those curveball questions that sometimes end up coming out of nowhere in the final presentation. The next trap we sometimes set up for ourselves is a very easy one to avoid. I call it the first run fumble. And what I mean by this is simply that the chances of you fumbling through your presentation and distracting your audience by losing your words, talking too fast, missing the key areas to highlight, and so forth are much higher if the final presentation you're doing is the first time you're running through the presentation. How to solve this? Practice your pitch or presentation at least once before you go into the real thing. I have definitely learned my lesson on this one, and I am a true believer that even one dry run before you go into final presentation can make all the difference. Important things to note: 1. When you're doing your dry run, speak out loud rather than going through your presentation inside your head. Pretend like you're actually in the presentation and speak and act exactly in the way that you would if it was the final presentation. And 2, remember, it's not about memorizing your words or sentences or phrases you're going to be using. It's more about familiarizing yourself with the flow of the presentation and setting yourself up with cues of where to pause, where to highlight key points. You're practicing your pitch, your volume, your tone, and just getting a general feel for the presentation end to end. So there we have it. Avoid these 2 common traps. Do your open-minded due diligence and make sure you do your practice run, and this will allow you to deliver an airtight, perfect presentation. Stay tuned for the last video in the presentation tips series. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment.